Raven Phoenix caused quite a stir in Hollywood. This is not the first star to die in the media's verbal criticism, and it will not be the last. But in the week following his death, the war that had been smearing each other came to an eerie halt. All the gossip tabloid media were silenced and silent. Several mainstream North American media outlets published feature stories, making Raven Phoenix's death the mainstream of public discussion. This war of smearing each other has allowed the public to see how chaotic the private lives of many glamorous Hollywood stars are. Many celebrities have exposed countless black materials in this smear war, which is essentially a damage to the image of Hollywood. No matter how chaotic and bastard your private life is, the common understanding is that everyone has to maintain the splendor of Hollywood. So after the death of Raven Phoenix, many Hollywood companies vented each other and stopped smearing each other. At the same time, seeing Keanu Reeves and Johnny Depp go to the welfare home to volunteer and participate in charity activities under the arrangement of Disney and Warner, the effect is very good. Everyone has learned from each other, and for a while, Hollywood's charity has become a trend. Tom Hanks went to Africa to comfort hungry children, Julia Roberts initiated charitable donations, and the Cruise established a charitable foundation, among others. Under the deliberate guidance of a large number of mainstream media, the previous black material seems to have been covered up, and the atmosphere in Hollywood is harmonious and friendly, turning into a big family. It stands to reason that those who caused such a bad thing should be arrested and tried together. But the problem is, everybody did it. If it weren't for the deaths, it would probably continue. In this respect, the death of Raven Phoenix is actually a good thing. In the smear war, some fans who paid attention to Little Gilbert noticed that there was not much black material about him in the media. This little director seems to stay out of the way, looking at the changes in Hollywood with a cold eye. How is it possible for someone to keep themselves clean in Hollywood, which is full of temptations? That's impossible. But in fact, it is true. Except for beautiful women, Little Gilbert is not interested in those vices of Hollywood. Besides, liking beautiful women is God's right. As a man, there's nothing wrong with liking beautiful women. On the other side of the Pacific, the relationship between men and women can be a magic weapon to pull a certain star down. But in Hollywood, it's never a big deal. This matter is over, and then life and death resumes normal publicity activities. 10 days after Raven Phoenix's death, Gilbert Jr. finally met Keanu Reeves. The first thing he said was to Gilbert, "How did you resist those temptations?" Gilbert Jr. was stunned, knowing that Raven Phoenix's blow to Keanu Reeves was a big blow, and at the same time, he began to think about his past and future life again. After all, he was an actor he once admired very much, and Gilbert Jr. also said very frankly, "I've never resisted temptation, Keanu. It's just that I know that some things can be done, and some things can't be done. Before doing anything, it is necessary to weigh the gains and losses, consider the cost, and such an exchange value is not worth it. When you can clearly weigh the consequences of everything, you will be able to make accurate judgments in your favor." Keanu Reeves nodded his head and said, "I know now that we've wasted a lot of good time in the past. Johnny and I decided to quit alcohol and drugs in the future and to actively participate in charity, atone for our past sins, and beg God to forgive us." In the West, the religious atmosphere is relatively strong, and it is certain that if you do something wrong, you will be involved with God. Keanu Reeves didn't do anything wrong. After all, many people do. The most wrong thing is to become the focus of media attention and be attacked. Gilbert Jr. patted Keanu Reeves on the shoulder and said, "It's a good thing to be able to change. I believe Raven is very willing to see your changes, morning." After thinking about life for more than 10 days, Keanu Reeves decided to turn back and change his mind. He also began to participate in the publicity and distribution of Life and Death and worked hard to promote the movie. When he was on the talk show, Keanu Reeves calmly talked about the blow to him from his friend's death and his changes. "I feel like my life has changed all of a sudden, and I used to ignore a lot of people and things. But now I'm more attentive and care more about the world." That's what Keanu Reeves said on the show, and that's actually what he did. Unlike other celebrities who do charity just for show, he is really doing charity. Keanu Reeves donated all of his salary on life and death and plans to use part of the income from making movies in the future for charity. He didn't just pay lip service, but he really intended to do it. Of course, he didn't tell anyone about these plans, and they all hid them silently in his heart. The movie thing will eventually return to the movie itself. This smear war has had a great impact on life and death, but Disney and Warner are still looking forward to this film. So, after consulting with Gilbert Jr., the distributor decided to hold a premiere in a theater in South Los Angeles to commemorate the victims of the Los Angeles riots. The Los Angeles Police Department also helped promote the film because the riots did not give the public a good impression of the LAPD. Therefore, the police department hopes that through this film, it will reverse its bad image in front of the public. Before the premiere, little Gilbert went home to meet the old man and invited him to attend the premiere with him. After all, his cheap father held the premiere for the first time, and it was unreasonable not to invite him to attend. "Little Gilbert, you've done a great job of liaising with the LAPD to help you build a good relationship with the city." By the pool in the backyard, the elder Gilbert holds a glass of red wine and teaches his son the Hollywood experience. "Do you know who's behind it this time?" Little Gilbert replied, "Whoever makes a profit is the hands behind the back." "You're right, but not all." Old Gilbert earnestly taught. "The others are at most stepping on the trend, and only those one or two are your real enemies." "Little," Gilbert humbly asked, "then who is my real enemy?" The old man didn't answer directly, took a sip of red wine, and said meaningfully, "I heard that Disney has been dissatisfied with Michael Eisner's dictatorship for a long time and wants him to give up the position of CEO and replace it with someone else. I heard that Mr. Eisner is strong. Will he say yes?" Little Gilbert asked. The old man shook his head. "Of course not. But Disney is not his Disney alone, and he will inevitably make concessions. I heard that Michael Eisner is interested in letting his friend Michael Ovitz join Disney as the CEO." Little Gilbert suddenly understood. "I understand." It seems that Michael Ovitz wants to create performance for CAA before leaving CAA and at the same time prove his ability to his friends. Even if he is the king of Hollywood brokerage and has been listed as the most powerful person in Hollywood by Vanity Fair for 3 consecutive years, he still can't resist the temptation of the CEO position of a giant company. It can be seen that the so-called most powerful person in Hollywood is just a joke. There is an old man in the family, if there is a treasure. Although the old man has an indecent life, he is still much better than little Gilbert in terms of Hollywood sophistication. He can also inquire about all kinds of gossip. There is such an old man who reminds himself at a critical moment, just like Ah Bao has an uncle in Flowers. You can say that the old man has a chaotic private life, and he still plays a lot when he is old. But most people in Hollywood are like this. It's impossible to break off relations with everyone, right? According to the morality of the other side of the Pacific, 99% of Hollywood stars, directors, and producers are not on par with good guys. But then again, film is an art as well as a business at the same time. Making movies is doing business, even if you cooperate with the boss to raise 108 little secrets. As long as it doesn't affect your money and there are no problems, do you care if people are good people? Making movies is not a moral model if, according to the standards of the past, little Gilbert should go to the missionary and cut off contact with the world. Whether or not a good person is my business, Whether the West is chaotic or not has nothing to do with my half a dime. I only make movies, make money, and become famous, and I don't care about anything else. That's what little Gilbert thinks. After talking to the old man, little Gilbert had a clearer line for the future. Hollywood is a competitive circle, and it is impossible to expect everyone to like it. It was fine before, but as Gilbert Jr. gets deeper and deeper into Hollywood's inner circle, the competition is bound to be fierce. At this time, the good guys and bad guys are no longer important. You have to be ruthless. On April 28th, after a series of events such as Super Bowl publicity and black material wars, Life and Death finally premiered in a theater in South Los Angeles. At the same time, in order to conform to the current mainstream political correctness, Disney and Warner jointly invited dozens of audiences representing African Americans, Asians, Latinos, and other ethnic groups to attend the premiere. In honor of the victims of the Los Angeles riots, the original red carpet was deliberately replaced with a black carpet, and all those attending the premiere wore black dresses. These are all superficial efforts, and they must be done beautifully on the face. Similarly, the occasion can be interpreted as a tribute to the memory of the talented actor Raven Phoenix. When Keanu Reeves heard about the arrangement of the premiere, he was very moved and took little Gilbert's hand and thanked him for a long time. Today, little Gilbert's father and little aunt's family will attend the premiere. The occasion was important for little Gilbert, and of course the whole family had to come together to support him. In the hotel where they are ready to leave for the scene, the family gathers, and at the same time, Naomi Watts, as one of the leading actors, is also the female companion of little Gilbert. When the old man saw Naomi Watts, he nodded with satisfaction. Not bad. The little Aunt Merrill Clater asked, "Little Gilbert, is this your girlfriend?" Looking at Naomi Watts' expectant gaze, little Gilbert directly admitted, "Yes. Anyway, there can be many girlfriends, and it's no problem to say that Merrill and Naomi are happy." Sure enough, Naomi had a clear feeling of joy on her face. And Merrill looked at Naomi like a mother-in-law looking at her daughter-in-law and secretly measured it, and then nodded vaguely, looking very satisfied. Cousin Ellie Mays looked at the beautiful Naomi Watts, thinking that it was her cousin's girlfriend, and her cousin had always loved her the most, so she had a good attitude towards Naomi. After changing into formal clothes and styling, little Gilbert asked his cousin Elle, "Do you want to be a star? Is it like Sister Naomi?" Elle me asked. "Yes, go to the movies, and then there will be countless fans like you." Little Gilbert laughed. If Elle is willing to be a star, then little Gilbert will help no matter what. And it is very rewarding to personally hold a star who did not exist in his previous life. Who knew that Elle directly refused. "I don't want to. I want to be the boss." Ojo. Old Gilbert also smiled. It seems that our little Ellie is going to start her own business. It's okay. Whatever you want to do, as long as it's legitimate, my cousin will support you. Gilbert Jr. encouraged. Great, cousin. I knew you would support me. My mother said I was whimsical. Elle leaped into little Gilbert's arms and took a sip of incense on his cheek. The little Aunt Merrill rolled her eyes and complained about her daughter. So I'm a bad person? Elle hides behind little Gilbert and makes a face at Merrill, looking mischievous and cute. Before leaving the house, Naomi Watts also helped little Gilbert tidy up the suit that had been messed up by Ellie. Compared to Cameron Diaz, who is still young, Naomi Watts, who is a few years older, is more able to take care of people. At this time, thousands of fans had already gathered outside the theater gate of the premiere. There was a little light rain in the sky, which fits well with the overall atmosphere of today's premiere. Fans were either wearing umbrellas or raincoats and waiting on both sides of the red carpet. Lewis and Sarati Merton were more than a dozen people who came, and now they are all temporary fans of Gilbert Jr., and when they heard that there was a movie premiere, they rushed over to support. But they didn't get tickets for the infield, so they had to wait outside the red carpet for the creators to appear. Lewis, I heard this movie is good? Sarati Merton asked. Lewis nodded and said, I have held a test screening for the media and film critics before, and the reviews are all good. It's a shame that I didn't see this film for the first time, and I really wanted to see what it was like. Sarati Merton said with pity. Sarati, don't worry. You'll see it the day after tomorrow. Lewis reassured. The companion next to him said, Here it is. Here the creators are here. The leading actors appeared one by one, starting with Dennis Hopper, who shared on the red carpet how wonderful the film was and some words of praise for little Gilbert. All I can say is that little Gilbert was born for the film industry, and he brought a lot of incredible shots and scenes that were wonderful. Everyone will know when you go to the cinema, and I can absolutely guarantee that the film will not disappoint fans. Then Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock also appeared, and the two held hands, showing a very close relationship. In fact, the gossip tabloids outside are hyping up the scandal between the two, and it seems that the relationship between the two is not simple. In an interview, Keanu Reeves said, This film is very exciting. There are a lot of action scenes, and I did it myself. Sandra Bullock said, When I knew I was working with director Gilbert Jr. and Keanu, I knew we were going to do something incredible. That's the normal flow on the red carpet, appearances, simple interviews, praise for the director, praise for the actors. Every question and answer caused enthusiastic cheers from fans. Those who can come to the premiere are loyal fans or fans, and they are guaranteed not to be cold. After the two producers Charles Rowan and Kane Waxman were interviewed on the red carpet, Charles Rowan said, I think Gilbert Jr. has revolutionized the action movie model. In the future, action movies will be divided into Speed of Life and Death and others. That's a bit of a big deal, and fans are more curious about what this film that revolutionized action movies is like. Next, it's Gilbert's turn to appear. With loud cheers, little Gilbert got out of the car and then pulled Naomi Watts out of the car, and the two walked on the red carpet together. Constantly greeting the fans around her and slowly walking on the red carpet made Naomi Watts enjoy the treatment of a Hollywood star. Little Gilbert whispered in Naomi Watts' ear, You pose, I'll interact with the fans. Naomi Watts stayed in the center of the red carpet and let the media take pictures, and with the light rain, a picture of a beauty in the rain was completed. Little Gilbert walked to both sides of the red carpet to interact with fans, say hello, and sign autographs. Waited until it was almost time before returning to Naomi Watts and continuing to walk the red carpet. Inevitably, Gilbert Jr. mourned the victims of the Los Angeles riot and remembered Riven Phoenix before sharing his experience in making the film. Actually, these victims have nothing to do with him, but since they are mixed here, they have to say something that people like to hear. The purpose is simple. It is for the money in the pockets of movie fans. Little Gilbert once read a book that said that in Western society, whether it is charity, animal protection, or environmental protection, it is essentially a business. Therefore, as long as it can bring a higher box office to his movie, Gilbert Jr. doesn't mind doing something with no lower limit. Obviously, Gilbert Jr.'s speech was very correct and very much in line with the thinking of the current mainstream society, so it caused a lot of applause. Naomi Watts also learned the same and followed little Gilbert's words and said a few casual words. After the main creator entered, then came the guests. Matt Damon and Cameron Diaz arrived at the scene together. The elder Gilbert also invited a few friends and producers to attend to cheer for his son. Spielberg brought Gwyneth Paltrow to the scene, and it was rumored that little Gilbert was Spielberg's student, and Spielberg acquiesced. On the red carpet, Spielberg praised. "I have long known that little Gilbert has extraordinary film talent, and I believe in this movie. He will not let us down." However, what surprised Gilbert Jr. the most was that Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman were also present at the premiere. Although Tom Cruise's hubris is well known in Hollywood, Tom Cruise is not stupid either, as reminded by his agent and Nicole Kidman. Now that Gilbert Jr. is a rising director in Hollywood, it is necessary to befriend such a director. "Hello, Mr. Cruise, Miss Kidman." Little Gilbert and Mr. and Mrs. Tom Cruise greet each other. Tom Cruise showed his signature charming smile. "Director Gilbert Jr., are you interested in us working together on a movie?" "Of course interested. Who wouldn't want to work with Tom Cruise in Hollywood?" Gilbert Jr. said. Hearing this, Tom Cruise looked very happy. He also didn't forget to give Nicole Kidman a chance. "Do you have a suitable role there? Can you give Mary a chance?" Little Gilbert looked at Nicole Kidman on the side and nodded slightly. "Of course, if there is a suitable role, I will have someone inform Miss Kidman." The guests were all there, and the premiere began quickly. Little Gilbert's family did not walk the red carpet and were already waiting inside the theater. At the same time, dozens of ethnic spectators invited to the public relations campaign have already taken their seats. Disney and Warner arranged media outlets have also begun to set up long guns and short guns, ready to take photos and interviews. Among the dozens of spectators, a few deputies were elected and delivered speeches, which were nothing more than calls for the abandonment of discrimination and prejudice and solidarity and fraternity. It can be seen that the representative is not a patent of a particular country. No matter where you are in the world, as long as you don't have the ability to speak, then being represented is inevitable. The film soon began to show, with Cameron Diaz and Matt Damon sitting in the third row, looking at Naomi Watts sitting in the front and pouting. This little man, after all, climbed into little Gilbert's bed. What a bitch. At the same time, Cameron Diaz thought about how to make Gilbert Jr. pay more attention and snatch Gilbert Jr. back from Naomi Watts. After thinking about it, Cameron Diaz thought of a friend he had met recently and couldn't help but think of other aspects, and a smile suddenly came to his heart. Matt Damon looked strangely at Cameron Diaz next to him, and then at little Gilbert and Naomi Watts in front of him, a little admired. Little Gilbert was able to move between two women without an accident, which is simply a model for men. Matt Damon doesn't think he has the ability. These Hollywood actresses, one is more shrewd than the other. It's better for him to stay away. Little Gilbert didn't know that Cameron Diaz was planning to surprise him in the future, and the work that he had worked so hard for so long to meet the audience made him excited enough every time. Soon the opening credits of Disney and Warner Pictures flashed, along with the words Melona Studio and Gilbert Landrini Jr. The film started very quickly, and as soon as it came up, it gave the audience a big one. Spielberg also sat in the front row watching the movie, and he was able to come to the show today, which was already very face-saving for little Gilbert. However, in his opinion, Gilbert Jr. is still young, and although he is very capable, he still needs to exercise. But unexpectedly, the first 20 minutes of the film completely changed Spielberg's mind. The fast-paced plot, sharp editing, fast-switching shots, dazzling scenes, and plots undoubtedly show that this speed of life and death is a very good quality action movie. Tom Cruise was talking to people he knew around him in a low voice, and his attention was not on the movie. Nicole Kidman reminds him to pay attention to movie etiquette, but he doesn't care. But it wasn't until the film's first explosion scene that the deafening sound resounded throughout the theater, drawing Tom Cruise's attention back. This look at the big screen, Tom Cruise's eyes never left. The house was bombed into the sky. The bus flew over the broken bridge, the plane and the bus collided, and finally the male and female protagonists kissed passionately in the sunset. Sarah, a reporter from the Los Angeles Business Daily, also got a place to watch the premiere with her good relationship with Little Gilbert. She silently watched the movie in the media area and made a judgment on speed of life and death in her heart. This is an A-grade commercial film with the potential to be a big hit. Compared with Gilbert Jr.'s two previous films, although this Speed of Life and Death looks very trendy in terms of shooting methods, it is essentially a mainstream commercial film in Hollywood. Movies of this type, as long as the quality is reasonable, can generally achieve good results. There are dozens of ordinary audiences of all ethnic groups, some of whom have never entered the cinema to watch Hollywood movies. The first time I watched a movie, I was conquered by the quality of Speed of Life and Death. Is this what Hollywood movies are? It is worthy of the world-renowned Hollywood, and the movie is good-looking. The movie ended successfully, and thunderous applause rang out in the theater dedicated to this wonderful action movie. And Little Gilbert led the creators to the stage for a curtain call, thanking the guests for coming to the premiere of the film in their busy schedules. After the curtain call, it's time to talk about your thoughts on the film. The creators shared some interesting things that happened on the set, as well as spit on director Gilbert Jr. Keanu Reeves gave Gilbert Jr. his second nickname, Exploding Maniac. The reason is that Little Gilbert is often blown up on the set, which makes the crew's heads big. Audiences who have watched the movie recognize the nickname Keanu Reeves very much. After all, some of the explosion scenes in the film are too crazy. Producer Charles Rowan complained, "I am worried every day on the set because Little Gilbert loves to play real shooting when he explodes. We really blew up a house and the bus flying over the bridge, which was also taken in real time." The final scene of the film, where the bus crashes into the plane, was actually filmed as a miniature. However, most of the other shots were taken in real life, and there was nothing wrong with that. When it came to the scene where the bus flew over the broken bridge was filmed, Tom Cruise's eyes lit up, and he seemed to feel that he had touched some trick, but he couldn't tell what it was. Your mother gave you an innocent succubus. Do you accept it? With a skeptical mentality, Yun Fong tried to click to accept. Then, my brother gave you a set of exoskeleton mecha. My father gave you a pulp wash. My sister gave you a Poseidon trident. Looking at the things that disappeared relatives sent after contacting him one by one, Yun Fong pulled the corners of his mouth. I'm the only one who didn't cross it. Subsequently, the guests also shared their feelings. The first to stand up was Spielberg, who praised with appreciation, "This movie has quite good quality and has the potential to make a difference in the summer. I watched Little Gilbert get into the business, and now that I've grown to this point, I'm very happy and wish this movie a big hit at the box office." These words also disguised the recognition that Little Gilbert was his student. This is actually a good thing for Spielberg. Has such an excellent young director as a student, and it has also consolidated Spielberg's good reputation for himself in disguise. Similarly, it is impossible for Gilbert Jr. to say that he is not. After all, he entered the industry through Spielberg's connections. If you don't admit it, it's a little ungrateful. Subsequently, Matt Damon, a friend of Little Gilbert, also shared his experience of watching the movie. The movie is very exciting. Little Gilbert is very talented. As early as The Grim Reaper, I knew this. I wish the movie a big hit. Tom Cruise also stood up and spoke. Incredible, incredible. This movie is simply amazing. This is definitely a rare top action movie. I believe that this movie will create a lot of surprises for fans this summer. After the guests finished talking about their feelings, it was the questions from the media and fans. The first person to be named was Sarah from the Los Angeles Business Daily. Sarah stood up and asked, "Director Gilbert Jr., is there anything different about making this movie and the past?" Little Gilbert replied, "The biggest difference is that it's a whole new subject and field, and it's the first time I've done it. As he spoke, little Gilbert looked at the creators on the left and right and said, "However, with so many excellent team members, as well as excellent actors such as Keanu, Sandra, Dennis, Naomi, etc., we still did our job very well." Gilbert Jr. didn't tie all the credit to himself, but to the team members. Movies are never a one-person thing, and there may really be some talented directors. But without so many outstanding talents, no matter how talented a director is, he can't make a movie alone. Sure enough, hearing little Gilbert's words, the creators were obviously very happy. After that, the reporters asked the creators separately, but the questions mainly focused on the male and female protagonists Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock. Among them, Keanu Reeves is the focus of attention. In the past 2 months, the Black Material War has made Keanu Reeves's fame rise by more than one level. Although it is not a good reputation and the bad impression has not been completely reversed, it is the most well-known after all. And the recent scandal between him and Sandra Bullock is also a highlight. Naomi Watts was also asked a question about how it was like to star in Life and Death. The petite woman looked at little Gilbert with a look of admiration on her face, which made Cameron Diaz frown in the audience. "I'm very lucky to be in this film, and I'm very grateful to director Gilbert Jr. for giving me this opportunity. I will continue to work hard to bring better works." Naomi Watts just said a few words. She resisted the urge and didn't say that she was dating little Gilbert. After all, now in front of the media, Gilbert Jr.'s official woman is Cameron Diaz, and she doesn't want to cause trouble for Gilbert Jr. The petite woman is still thinking about little Gilbert. If she is replaced by Cameron Diaz, she will probably say whatever she thinks in her heart. This can't be blamed on Cameron Diaz. After all, this woman is still young, not rich in social experience, and does not have the experience of crawling at the bottom like Naomi Watts. The premiere ended very successfully. Cameron Diaz rushed to Gilbert Jr. as soon as possible and surrounded Gilbert Jr. with Naomi Watts left and right. Cameron Diaz also looked at Naomi Watts defiantly, looking like he was going to be jealous. Old Gilbert came over, patted little Gilbert on the shoulder, looked at the two women very satisfied, and secretly said that his son finally had 1/10 of his demeanor back then. "Little Gilbert, you've done a great job, and I'm sure you'll make a name for yourself in Hollywood." The old man was pleased. After saying that, he walked away slowly, probably thinking about which bar to go to at night. The little Aunt Meryl looked at little Gilbert with a worried look and put little Gilbert aside. "Honestly, have these two slept with you?" Again, there was nothing to hide, and little Gilbert honestly admitted. Meryl looked surprised and said, "Don't the two quarrel?" Said little Gilbert, looking at the two women who seemed to be competing. "You also saw it. This is the situation." "Well," Meryl sighed, "I hope you can control the proportions and don't make a mess of your dead father." Little Gilbert nodded. "I know, Auntie, I'll pay attention." After the premiere, it wasn't all about it. Starting tomorrow, Gilbert Jr. will take the crew to create a roadshow all over the United States. Cameron Diaz and Naomi Watts followed him back to the apartment where Gilbert Jr. now lives, and the two have been battling it out since the theater. "Hey, I said you two. You've been staring at each other for a long time, aren't you tired?" Little Gilbert asked with a headache. The two replied in unison, "Don't be tired." Then, he began to stare at him again. After staring at her for a long time, Naomi Watts finally said the first sentence. "Don't act, Michelle. You and I are little Gilbert's lovers. Even without me, sooner or later there will still be other women to compete with you. I'm not happy, so I'm going to conquer little Gilbert in front of you." Cameron Diaz has a sense of gambling. Naomi Watts also has a temper. "Can you get on? But I can't. What do you want to do?" Little Gilbert was a little stunned. "The first time I experienced this kind of thing, I was so panicked. What should I do? This night the spring breeze is proud, and the grass does not grow for 10 miles in the spring. In the end, Naomi Watts and Cameron Diaz fell asleep on the left and right. The next morning, Cameron Diaz woke up, remembering what had happened last night and feeling a little shy about his bold plans. What did I do last night? Cameron Diaz touched his face, a little embarrassed. What did you do? It was time to wake up, and Naomi made breakfast. Gilbert Jr. patted Cameron Diaz and got up. After washing, the three of them enjoyed a breakfast. This is delicious, little Gilbert. Eat this. Naomi Watts put a piece of garlic bread on little Gilbert's plate. This is not bad. You can try it. Cameron Diaz is more direct. He doesn't use little Gilbert's hands and feeds it himself. Little Gilbert enjoys, sighs about this rotten life, and enjoys the service of two future Hollywood sweethearts. Maybe it was the night they spent together yesterday, and the two women were honest with each other last night. When we get along today, our attitude is much better. At least there is no hostility from yesterday. There wasn't much to worry about little Gilbert, and the two women had a tacit understanding not to bother little Gilbert about it. Looking at the two women who were already able to communicate normally, little Gilbert felt that he was playing hooligan, like a scumbag. If you can firmly reject one of them, maybe you won't have the experience of yesterday. But men, who understand everything, get a lot, but want more. It seems that it is time for Sheena Boone to find a big house, otherwise there will not be enough rooms. In the same way, women's efforts must be rewarded, and this reward must be generous. Premiere, Gilbert Jr. took the creators on a journey of national promotion. Cameron Diaz was busy auditioning for Stranger in Disguise, and Gilbert Jr. told her that the heroine of the film must be won over. Although little Gilbert is a jerk when it comes to men and women, this man admires Cameron Diaz when it comes to cinema. So she obediently listened to little Gilbert and went to the audition. This film was prepared and shot by the second-tier production company New Line Pictures, and the current male protagonist has no surprise to set Jim Carrey. After the premiere, the ban on media ratings and comments on life and death was lifted. Chicago Sun-Times film critic Roger Albert once again gave Gilbert Jr. 2 thumbs up for his new film. Among the many films, I have seen a lot of films with themes like life and death. But there are few works as good as The Speed of Life and Death, and the film is full of high positive energy. The Los Angeles Times also commented, "The film's director and his team have created a complex and brilliant visual effect. These temporal effects are incredibly relevant to the content of the film, constantly stimulating the viewing effect of the movie." Kenneth Turin, a film critic for The New Yorker, commented, "The end of the film is clean and crazy. Speed is the best gimmick of the film, and the film plays the theme of speed to the fullest." Of course, the media is not one-sided praise. There are still a lot of bad reviews. For example, The Washington Post commented, "The plot of the film is excessive, and it is all about the endless public transportation battle between the protagonist Reeves and his opponent, and even if it is difficult, the last stop before the mold jumps off." And the well-known film critic Tulsklek said, "The film has many logical loopholes, a lot of hard holes in the plot, and it is too focused and explosive." If Ken focuses on the inner world of the villain Payne and figures out why he does it, the film's evaluation will go to the next level. At first glance, this may seem like a fine statement, but when you think about it more closely, you will find that it is full of pitfalls. What explores the inner world of the characters? Is that what the audience likes? Gilbert Jr. was sure that if he had made a film the way Mr. Leahy had said, he would never have been given the opportunity to direct at such a young age. The film company did not look at the artistry of the film, but the profitability of the little Gilbert film. Of course, it's normal for reviews to be good and bad, and such arguments can even spark the curiosity of the audience. thus driving the audience into the cinema. At midnight on April 30th, the midnight show of Speed of Life and Death officially opened. The film opened at midnight on 1,500 screens in 1,500 theaters across the United States. Compared with the midnight data of The Grim Reaper, this data is undoubtedly a lot better. This shows that the theater side is also very optimistic about the movie, Speed of Life and Death, so they try to arrange high-ranking films. As the beginning of the summer season, the competition for the schedule in early May has been fierce, and it is not only Life and Death that has opened the midnight show. Produced and distributed by Columbia Pictures, CAA is responsible for the packaging operation and the action film. Mighty Mountains, starring Sylvester Stallone, also opened at midnight on April 30th. One is a new movie with an old action star, and the other is a combination of a new director and a handsome actor with a little fame. No matter how you look at it, movies that are all old action stars are more popular. In fact, although after a series of marketing, Life and Death was widely known in North America before it was released. But at midnight, there are still more audiences who choose the film The Mighty Wind. No wonder CAA is so confident that he wants to touch little Gilbert with this movie. Michael Ovitz's judgment is indeed correct. Stallone's muscular appeal is obviously much stronger than Keanu Reeves's. But if the film market relies on the appeal and fame of actors and directors to earn the box office, there will not be so many miracles. Hollywood is fascinating because it's a place where miracles happen. At a movie theater near the University of California, Los Angeles, Lewis and Sarati Merton and their gang had already bought movie tickets and came to support Life and Death as soon as possible. At this time, at the ticket window in the theater, many audiences were queuing up to buy tickets. 3 copies of The Heroic Wind, thank you. 2 of The Mighty Mountains. 2 of Speed of Life and Death. Lewis observed the ticket sales and couldn't help but sweat for little Gilbert. Look at it like this: The Mighty Wind is more popular than Speed of Life and Death. Sarati Merton had long anticipated this scene. It's normal, Lewis, from fame to investment to appeal. Life and Death is not as good as Mighty Mountains. It's normal. That being said, Lewis still wants Life and Death to be more popular. The movie soon begins, and Lewis and the others enter the theater and take their seats. It seems that the early publicity effect is very good, and the attendance rate of the midnight show in the cinema hall of this movie theater in a prosperous neighborhood has reached about 40%. Among them, many viewers are watching Little Gilbert's movies for the first time. I've only heard of it before, but this time I came out of curiosity. Lewis sat next to him with a strange combination, a white boy and a black boy, and the two seemed to be good friends. Although there is now a clear opposition to racial discrimination, not too many white people can make friends with black people. But the black man who can make friends with the white man is already a white man at heart, and he is no longer the same as the black people at the bottom. But none of this matters. The important thing is that both of them were interested in watching the movie because they watched the Super Bowl halftime commercial. A young white man drank Coke and talked to a young black man, and the two had a good time chatting about interesting things that had happened recently. Lewis watched the white boy drink a lot of Coke, and for the sake of the movie-watching experience, he reminded, "Hey, man, I advise you to drink less Coke." The white boy asked curiously, "Why?" "Because you won't have time to go to the bathroom," Lewis said. The white boy was clearly unconvinced. "Really?" "Of course, if you don't believe it, it's okay." Looking at Lewis's sworn appearance, the white boy will be skeptical, but still put the Coke down. He clearly didn't believe that there was any movie that could press himself to his seat and not leave. But soon the white boy knew that he was wrong, and as soon as the film opened, he completely captivated him and attracted the attention of the audience. Holy crap, This video is so exciting. Who is this Jack? He's so handsome. Indeed, I can't see that he has conquered me, even though I am a man. As the film deepens, Keanu Reeves, under the lens of Gilbert Jr., gradually reveals his charm. This kind of charm, which kills both men and women, is simply a deadly poison that makes people want to stop. Under the tense and exciting plot, even Sandra Bullock, whom Lewis thinks is average, looks sexy and charming. The white boy who had drunk too much coke had already started to hold his pee, and he didn't want to miss a shot, but his bladder was already blowing. I couldn't bear it, so the white boy ran to the bathroom at the speed of light to solve it. Lewis noticed that the white boy kept his eyes on the big screen as he ran to the bathroom, refusing to miss a single frame. Lewis didn't want to. He quickly twisted his head back and enjoyed this wonderful film. It's been a long time since I've had this kind of refreshing movie-watching feeling, and Lewis feels that this is the best movie made in Little Gibb's directorial career. Despite this film, Gilbert Jr. has only directed 3 films. At the midnight stage, although Speed of Life and Death was far worse than The Heroic Wind of the Mountains in terms of appeal, in terms of audience reputation after the midnight show, Speed of Life and Death won completely. It seems that the 2 films will have a fight in the summer file.